Welcome to Camera Shake Podcast, episode 96, the podcast where we talk about photography, videography, and anything and everything that's got anything to do with any of that, with me, Kersten and Nick Kirby.
Hello.
Hello, every Thursday. Now, we're back. Another week.
Well, where are you back from?
Well, I'm back from, no, I'm not back from Wales this week.
No.
I'm just back from doing lots of admin. Like ridiculous amounts of admin. That's what I've been doing.
You've had a boring week.
Yeah, absolutely. Spreadsheet galore, but hey, has to be done. What can you do?
What do you use for spreadsheets?
Numbers.
Okay. You are a full-on Mackie.
I honestly believe that my old MacBook Pro lasted 10 years simply because I never let anything made by Microsoft come close to it. That is my honest belief.
So you jest slightly, but I totally agree.
Well, I mean, it's worked anyway. I'll be honest with you. I like using Pages and Numbers and Keynote actually, instead of the equivalent Microsoft products like Word and
I
Excel.
agree and disagree.
For me, basically, because I'm not like a spreadsheet power user.
So I spent 15 years at least becoming like really good on Excel on a Windows machine. I have never been able to do the same thing on Numbers.
Sure.
I've never been able to do the same thing on Excel on Mac either.
Okay.
Because it just doesn't work in the same way, and I cannot get. And it's what you get used to. I appreciate that. I just can't get back to it. I spent so long doing it the other way. Pages is okay. There's a load of quirks that I don't like, whereas Word just makes sense and is logical to me on Windows. Now, remember, you're talking to Mac fanboy over here. So this pains me to say that I think Word and Excel on Windows massively, massively dwarfs anything related on a Mac for that. However,
Sure.
Keynote, I think, is the opposite.
No,
I think Keynote shits all over PowerPoint.
For sure. I mean, see, the thing, my issue with, and I'm not like, not one of these people who slate Microsoft Bros all the time. Only half the time. Not really. The thing is, for what I use spreadsheets for, and for what I use word processors for, Pages and Numbers.
2 times 2 in your signature block on your emails.
Well, no, it's like, yes, there are many more things that you can do with Excel. I mean, it's vastly more powerful, I believe it, whatever. And the same with Word. But there's a lot of belts and whistles that I don't need. And because they're they just confuse the hell out of me. So
No, I don't disagree with you. I think you're absolutely right. Totally right.
And that's actually why I love Pages so much, because it's just so simple. Pages, as far as word processors are concerned, because it's so much simpler and more straightforward. And that's exactly what I want, because I don't want to have to sift through X amount of different screens and menus to find the one simple thing that I wanted to do.
Okay. Totally agree on that side of things, 100%. The problem I have with something like Pages is its stupidity at times. And what I mean by that is its inability to copy formatting in the same kind of way that you can with Word. That, that's one of the biggest issues that it has. Being able to get yourself out of bullets without having to go to a menu to click no bullets, please, rather than just double return.
Oh, you can do that actually.
It's things like that, right? That I have problems with it on, and I think Google Sheets and Google Pages.
I don't know. I've virtually never used Google Sheets and
Google
stuff.
something or whatever their Word version is. I really like those, and because I know I'm going to use it for the most basic stuff I possibly can. I don't care about formatting and stuff like that, but the fact that it's just saved in my drive and it's just shared in a nice, easy way is quite nice.
Totally. I mean, the thing is, like, that's not true. I do use Google Sheets, but simply for things that are sitting on the back end of my website.
Yep.
You know, like for instance, I don't know, for argument's sake, like if there's a contact form, for example, you know, on my website, and it's kirstenlutz.com if anyone wants to know. Just go and visit it. Leave your message in there. Send me, you know, go to the contact page and just send me a nice message. Should be nice. But anyway, so you know, all of that stuff gets captured on a Google Sheet basically on the back end, and you know, and although it also automatically gets emailed out to me, it's still. These Google Sheets the Google Drive just sits on the back end of that, and it makes perfect sense, and it's easy and you know, super awesome, no problem. And of course, when we share information online, we use Google Sheets as well, actually, occasionally. Although we did share some stuff on. Yeah. Well, I mean, we share stuff in all sorts of different ways, really.
We do, and it's interesting that we navigate towards certain ways of sharing depending on what we're sharing.
Yeah, because I think it's all ease of use. Like for example, and this is like, you know.
And these companies need to be paying attention to stuff like that.
Yeah, I think one of the cleverest things I've used in terms of sharing stuff is shared notes on iPhone,
super helpful,
or on Mac. I mean, that is just the simplest of the simple things. It works on your phone, on your Mac, absolutely everywhere. It updates itself everywhere else, on your iPad, wherever. And when it's shared, the minute I make a change, it changes on your phone as well. So it's basically, you know, we might just be leaving notes, you know, like a list of gear to bring for a job or something like that. Or something
we use that as much as we use Google Drive to share data.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
you know, like as in files rather is a bit better term. But we use shared notes constantly
all the time. Yeah, it's a great thing, and it's because it's so practical.
Really easy.
You know, no matter whether I'm sitting in front of my iMac at home or whether I'm out and I've got my phone with me, if I just, you know, let's say a thought comes to my mind and I just think like, oh, I better let Nick know that we need to add this thing to the job that we're going to next week or something.
Exactly.
It just goes onto the note and there it is.
Exactly.
And it's easy.
Yeah.
There's no need to text. There's no need to, you know, go online and like open a shared drive or anything like that. It's just super
It's just
simple.
there right in front of you.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's easy to share with somebody as well. So it's, I don't know, it just makes perfect sense.
I have a question. How did we get onto this?
I've no idea. I actually don't know. Oh, whatever. Something. Oh, we were talking about spreadsheets. Oh, the fact that I spent the whole week basically
This is how this got. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Oh, all right. I'm very sorry for the geekiness of randomness.
Sometimes I think, like, you know, photography, the fact that this is a photography podcast, it's just that photography gives us the premise to actually have a podcast in the first place.
I don't think you should allow us to do that anymore.
Oh, well. Anyway, so photography wise, well, there's a lot going on photography wise, and stuff. You know, over the last week and coming up as well, because we've got a photography talk coming up on Thursday. Actually, if you're listening to this on the day that this show comes out on Thursday, then be advised that we're
this evening
we'll be at a photography talk where we're going to be talking about the 3 heads in a row project. So if you're interested in learning how to shoot, there's going to be a live shoot and an editing session. So if you're interested in how I shoot 3 heads in a row images, and you want to see how I live edit one of these images, then come along to the Watford Camera Club in Watford, UK. Starts at 7:45 p.m. So if you are listening to this before that time,
you might want to give a date.
Yeah. Oh, well, it is Thursday. Whatever the day is today.
Gone.
Thursday, the 3rd of March.
There we go.
Thursday, 3rd of March. If you are in and around the Watford area, Hertfordshire, you know, Buckinghamshire, London, North London.
If
West
it's
London.
After that date, go along anyway.
Yeah. That's it. So yeah, if you want to come along, you know, send me a message or something.
And hopefully in next week's episode, or perhaps the one after, we might have, if we get the opportunity, we'll shoot a little BTS for it, and
sure.
You know, all of you guys can see a little bit of how 3 heads in a row is shot.
Yeah, exactly. So, it'll be nice and easy. It's free as well, so you know, no tickets. Free and easy.
Oh, wow.
As they say. There you go.
Much like yourself.
Much like myself, exactly. So yeah, that should be fun. So that's cool. So that's, like I said, it's a live shoot, and a live edit session type of thing afterwards. Yeah. That should be super fun. So that's one thing that's coming up, and then we've got a big event coming up on Saturday that we're shooting as well, which is a Battle of the Bands type of huge competition. Actually, we've got 14 bands to shoot on that day. And individual photo shoots with all these bands and stuff. So that's going to be a long day.
8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Sorry, till midnight.
So yeah, so there's going to be a lot of shooting going on.
I don't know what to say to that.
We're shooting both stills and video, and it's going to be fun.
I'm tired already.
Yeah, I know. This is only the 7th time I'm doing this event, 7th year. Although, that being said, of course, this is the first time back since the pandemic. So actually, we had a bit of a gap last year. So this should be Battle of the Bands 8, really, but it's 7.
But it's not 7. Yeah.
So
that's cool.
But that's cool, getting back into shooting concerts.
Yeah. Sorry, it's made me exhausted thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's really 9 till midnight. Who does those kind of hours?
I don't know. Us, because we're nuts.
And it's for a charity. So you can imagine the pay.
Well, what can I say?
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
No, it'd be good. It'd be good.
It's actually a cracking event, right? And gives lots of kids and local musicians a superb opportunity to play on a massive stage. Full on setup, full on rig,
crew,
crew,
lighting crew, sound crew. It's gonna be great. Incidentally, for me, this is always almost like going back to the beginning, because we've talked about this many times on the show, but for me, I sort of found my way into photography through photographing bands.
Right.
And photographing gigs, so it's really something that I don't really do that much of these days, but I love doing it.
It's finding the time to do it now, isn't it? I'm so busy with
other
projects.
But it's also the fact that over the last couple of years here, there just weren't very many gigs going on. There's this lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
Although I don't miss the late nights.
No. Well, I'll be tapping you up at some point in the next... it depends if we get our asses in gear or not. But I've been playing the Metallica tribute over lockdown.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
And we've done very little with it, but frankly, we're very good.
Excellent. Okay, cool.
If I do play my own trumpet. So when we do eventually gig, it's the type of band where we do a couple of 2, 3, 4 gigs a year. That's it, no more.
Cool.
But we'll make them big events.
Is that with Mark on guitar?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have you along to.
That'd be fun.
Do the business if you're free.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that'd be super fun. Yeah, I'm glad that all that stuff's coming back. And now that we have no restrictions anymore in this country, anyway, I think everything's.
Oh, get this! So this weekend just passed. We're supposed to the band that I'm playing regularly every week. We're supposed to gig on Saturday night, and it would have actually been our first gig in 3 weeks or something like that. It's been very quiet January, February,
which is unusual for your band. Just to put that into context, so your band pre-pandemic, let's say, you would have gigged at least once or twice a week.
It averaged out to about 70, 75 sort of gigs a year.
Yeah, so it's 1.5 gigs.
Yeah,
roughly.
That's roughly what it worked out to be. And January, February has been, frankly, very quiet. Very quiet by comparison. And I put that down to, let's actually bring this around to photography or something like that for a second. We've been hearing from photographers, and I've certainly heard personally from a number of them, actually they've been as busy as they have ever been in the last few months.
Sure.
All right. And that's great. It's because weddings have been happening again, for example.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. However, one of my band's primary sources of income is weddings. And I've spoken to other bands, and the guys I play with have also spoken to other bands, and we have not picked up nearly the same way at all, not even close. And so my thought process of it is, and I've got nothing to really back this up, but it's just, if I was a punter and I was booking my wedding, and I had less money than I used to have because COVID has destroyed that. It's taken all of my savings. It's taken all of this, all of that. And I'm determined to get married still.
Photos.
Where am I going to put my money? Am I going to put it in the photos that I can enjoy for the rest of my life? Or video, even? Or am I going to put it into the entertainment for the night? Now, depending on who you are, you will argue one side or the other. But if you can only have one because budget dictates it. I think the majority of people will go for the photos. If they can afford more, they might go for the band or video second, and third, but one of those as well.
So
that's my.
And I tell you what, I have a story. I tell you this from my very own experience, right? So one of my wife's friends got married a few years back, right? And they had a band, right? So they were in a venue and they had a band. The band was okay. It was a regular covers band. A lot of fun. But the photographer was like, a friend who had a camera type of a thing, right?
Okay.
So they did a big camera, like a real camera in inverted commas, and therefore, the pictures must be great. So so because we were there, and of course, automatically, if you're a photographer and you see another photographer, there's just nothing you can do about that. You automatically kind of check them out somehow.
Cool, sure.
Without any intentions or whatever. But it's just automatically what you do. And I sort of immediately clocked that A, that wasn't a professional, and B, I was thinking like, what was he doing?
He's using a 5100 or something like that.
It was, Anyway, so it was like, I ignored it, for the most part. But anyway, a few weeks later, we got a card, like a thank you card, that had a little collage of photos on the back, like a postcard type of a thing.
Okay.
And the main shot of the bride and the groom, she had her eyes closed.
What?
Yeah. So, it really, they were really horrendous. And the funniest thing about this is, sometime after that,
I shouldn't laugh because they're probably devastated.
My wife told me, like, we're talking about it, and of course, and she said, like, oh, and we were having a chat the other day, and she kept going on about how amazing the photos were. And we're both just looking at each other going, like, she had a nice shot.
What about the rest of the shots?
Well, they were just as terrible.
I can imagine.
They were just as terrible, But anyway, so,
But it was a friend who was doing it for them.
It was a friend.
For nothing,
it's
right?
probably free, yeah, right. So what can you say? But, the thing is, we have this thing where, we have, our wedding photographer gave us a wooden box with prints in it. It's a very beautiful, lovely wooden box.
Yeah.
Appeals to our Canadian mindset, and
is it permanently covered in maple syrup?
No,
is it always sticky?
Well, it's got woodland creatures inside. No. You open it up and a raccoon pops out. Oh, it's a squirrel. It's a raccoon. What's that? No, it's got like stuff inside. But anyway, so it's a pile of prints in there, and they're beautifully printed on like really cool paper. It's a little bit alternative, but that little wooden box sits in our windowsill in the living room, and every so often, every few weeks or something, we're just really enjoy like an evening or something. One of us will grab the box and we'll just look through the prints, and they're really cool photos. They're lovely photos, great shots, and it's just a lovely way to present it. And it's actually, that's the thing about, prints versus digital images, that kind of stuff. It's just the fact that you can actually you have something physical in your hand, and it's just nice to actually pick that up and you can share and you can talk about them, and
you look for them intentionally.
Yeah, intentionally, absolutely.
Right, and that's It's the same. It's the same principle as owning vinyl, right? You intentionally listen to that record, and you will listen to it. You won't go and pick out a song because it's frankly just a pain in the ass. Yeah. But you will go and listen to the entire thing. It's the same kind of idea right behind it, and it makes a difference to me.
And like on the opposite side, I also have I have a Google gallery or whatever, shared gallery of lots of photos from the actual wedding party that a relative of mine took, and he shared the gallery with us. And there are lots of really nice shots in there as well. They're obviously not professional shots, but it's just nice behind the scenes stuff if you want. You know?
Great.
I mean, how many times do you think we look through that gallery? Virtually never. It's so easy to access because it's on the phone or whatever, but we virtually never look at that because it's not the same experience. To look something on a phone or an iPad or whatever, it's just not the same. It's just really nice to have something physical there. And so, when especially wedding photographers harp on about, this sort of superiority of prints, I get what they're saying because I'm, from the other, if you're on the other side and you're the consumer, you're the client, basically, like in my case, if it's my wedding, then I really understand what that means, and I value it and I really appreciate it. And the funny thing was that our photographer, who we interviewed in, I think, episode 2.
Wasn't it Dan? It was Dan Akerley, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Dan Akerley, yeah. The beautiful thing was that
if you haven't listened to that episode or seen Dan's work, go back to the first few.
Yeah, I think it was episode 2 or something.
The man, he's brilliant. He's really good.
Not only is he, I mean, by all means, go back to that episode. I think it was Camera Shake Podcast, episode 2. So we're now.
It was 2, was it?
Yeah,
was it really?
94 episodes ago. And also have a laugh.
Was he our first guest?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Special meaning.
I might just listen to the episode myself tonight and have a bit of a chuckle.
Yeah. And it will be a chuckle. Yeah.
Anyway, so but the thing was,
what a legend.
He was never supposed to deliver prints. The arrangement that I had at the time with him was digital files only, and he just did that. As a thing, and it was great, and that's it was so nice, it was so well appreciated, and it really made a huge difference.
That's a pro move, there.
And the next time I get married, I will keep that in mind. No, I'm not. That's it. I'm done.
She doesn't listen. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I can say whatever I want. My wife doesn't listen.
But that's a pro move from Dan, and that's
Absolutely.
a smart business decision to, okay. You could argue that, because you already knew him, right? At the time? Yeah. So you did know, you could argue that he gave you that because you knew him. Well, you could argue
I didn't really know him. I mean, I knew him as in we have a mutual friend.
Fine.
Yeah.
So this is why it's an even more important move. It's this type of thing. It's not. I'm not suggesting for a second that that's the type of thing that everybody should be doing, but to give a client something extra that they were not expecting,
it's a great move.
Is cracking, because guess what? They remember that. They will appreciate that. And when they need your type of service again, even if it's not exactly what you do, but it's close, guess where they're going to go? They're going to remember that person who. Oh, God, he did that and that was cracking.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
You remember that and you're going to go talk to that person first. At the very least, you might be able to recommend someone else, a colleague of yours, someone that you know.
That's just really
because
nice.
it's not something that you're into. And that's great. That's the type of thing that works.
It's just a really nice touch, to go above and beyond. We haven't had, it's funny because when we first started out, we spoke to a lot of wedding photographers on the show. Yeah. And we haven't actually spoken to a wedding photographer in a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get someone on the show. That would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how the wedding photography landscape has changed since the pandemic as well. So
yeah, it would. Well, we need to get back onto getting guests on the show. Well, that is and I appreciate that's massively my fault.
Yeah, but those things, that's just, we had to replan a little bit. But hey, we're back in the swing of things. So
long story short, for those out there who haven't noticed or realized that we haven't had many guests on the last few
months. Yeah,
few months, really, isn't it? And that's because I've been working so much daytime and evening that it just practically has not worked out. However,
times are changing.
That's all coming to an end, and I can now do stuff at night.
Exactly. So there you go.
There we go. Guests are coming back, people, as are more behind the scenes.
Yes, more behind the scenes. There will be there are actually some really interesting projects coming up.
There's going to be some very cool BTS stuff coming up over the next few months. I'll show you.
The behind the scenes thing is actually an interesting thing because, I'm one of these people, and I'm sure you're too. And if you're listening to this, let's see if you agree. But, back in the day when, DVDs were a thing. Yeah. When DVDs were a thing, I always used to buy the extended versions with the behind the scenes stuff on it. And more often than not, I would probably watch the behind the scenes thing before I even watched the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. I get the idea of getting those versions, but to watch that first, really?
Yeah, quite often. I mean, especially when there were like movies where there was like some groundbreaking new technologies being used.
You see, I did something similar. Not in the Duvda era, but since I would watch the film, I would watch the BTS that's available for it, and then I would watch the film again.
Yeah.
Because I like enjoying the film for what it is and to try and get immersed in their reality that's there and try and get that into my head rather than immediately. And because I've spent my entire life analyzing music.
Yeah.
And go, that's how they played that. That's how they recorded that. Wow, God, how have they recorded that? How have they made that sound that way? How have they made that look the way they've looked? What's the color grading? I've spent my entire life doing that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just nice to let go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And feel what other people, the rest of the world feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes I realize that we don't enjoy stuff, music or video or photos, in the way that the rest of the world feels about it and enjoys it.
Okay, so the thing, I mean, I totally agree with you when it comes to music, absolutely. Because, when I listen to a track, I do the same thing. I overanalyze it, but that's just instinctively I do that because...
Yeah, me too. And I did that before I got into engineering and stuff like that.
But I automatically think about arrangements, I think about, parts and sounds and, and all that kind of stuff, expression, when I listen to a song. But the only time I don't do that is when I'm in the car.
Really?
Yeah. So when I'm in the car and I'm driving, let's say I'm on the motorway on the highway.
See, I'm the total opposite.
I crank the music up and I just let it like sink in.
Okay, and there's a reason. I've realised there's a reason why I'm the opposite to that. It's because the car is a big place where I listen to my mixes and where I've done stuff. And a car is a massive place I do my analysing for songs.
I used to do that
in general.
In the like when I had a tape player in the car. I used to do that. It used to be in the studio, right? And you'd do mix, and then you'd go out and you listen to the mix in the car on tape. So you dump it on tape, then put it in the car. You listen to it, and then you go back in and change some stuff.
Absolutely. The one time these days I don't do that is if I'm having an evening in and I'm having a few drinks, and I'll put some music on, and I'll just and then I will actually just listen, and I'll just enjoy it for what it is. But that's about it. It's hard. And that's the same with, video. It's a little difficult to do when you're drinking. You don't enjoy things in the same way with that. But
you see double.
I can't look at anything visual and not start working out what's going on.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but I have these arguments, in inverted commas, that are really arguments, but these conversations with my wife all the time, because she watches movies very differently from me, and that's because she's so in tune with dialogue and the script and that sort of thing, and storytelling and story arches and all that kind of stuff. And that's, to her, that's what makes a movie, or that's what makes a story, basically, because she comes from a script writing kind of background. For me, it's not that I ignore any of that. That's definitely not true. I mean, that's important to me too, but the first impressions that I get have more to do with lighting, like light,
Same.
color,
Across the board for me, same.
Camera moves, all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting, actually. I was listening to another,
but I'm the same with music, lyrics. Okay, singers, don't take offense. I really don't care what you've got to say.
Oh, well, okay.
I say that obviously slightly in jest, but I don't listen to the lyrics.
Well,
I listen to the melodies.
Yeah, so
that's important to me.
Funny enough, I'd actually do exactly the same thing, but there's a reason for this. Because when I was little,
if you blame this on being German Canadian,
no, yeah, well, no, I do, because when I was little, I didn't actually speak any English, so I couldn't understand. Like, I was listening to English speaking music all the time, but I couldn't understand the words at all. And so to me, they were just sounds. And I remember when I was little, and I was sitting in my room with headphones on. I was listening to something. I can't remember. It may have been the Ghostbusters soundtrack or something.
Excellent.
I don't know.
Good choice.
Whatever it was. But I remember my parents came home, and unbeknownst to me, I was sitting in my room with like headphones on. I was singing along, and obviously I didn't hear them come back. And so, unbeknownst to me, that obviously heard me singing along. They couldn't hear the music; they could just hear me singing. And so they opened the door to my room, and they were just standing in the doorway, just watching and laughing their heads off for I don't know how many minutes, whilst I was like, singing my head off. But I didn't know what they were singing about. I didn't know what the song was about. To me, they were just phonetic sounds. And so that's what I was making, phonetic sounds.
Yeah.
So to them, it sounded hilarious because it wasn't a language or anything, And so I think, ever since then, I'm kind of same in the sense that I don't really listen to the meaning, like lyrical meaning.
No, I don't.
Per se. And, when I
wish I could. But I'm almost 40.
Yeah.
And I've yet to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I doubt maybe one day I will. But
I think I got more into that. No, I mean, no, again, by no means, like, I take my wife again as an example because she's just very much in tune with that. She's language is important to her. She's an English major, all that kind of stuff. So it's all about words and language and meaning and all that kind of stuff for her. For me, it's about melody and all that kind of stuff, or in a video context, again, like I said, it's about lighting. I love camera moves. I just love camera moves. Especially when they're really clever, or sometimes when they're just really effective. They can be very subtle, but you can add so much emotional value to a scene just by the way you move the camera.
Yeah.
And that's
one of my favorite camera moves is and
Jaws.
Yep. And 99% of the people won't even know it's happening. But it could be potentially a long scene, which is just straight on shot to someone talking. And, it might last 30 seconds. It might last a minute. It might last 10. It doesn't really matter, but it's not just a quick shot. And it's the slowest.
This is push.
Yeah. Precisely.
Yeah.
It's the slowest push. And it's only when you really start concentrating on the outside edges of the frame that you realize that you are being pushed in.
Yeah.
And most people won't notice it. And that's a good thing. That you shouldn't notice it. But you get the right emotion from it. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, right? It's about evoking that right kind of emotion. That still tops the list of camera moves for me.
There's that, and there's lighting. There's a great show on, I want to say it's on Netflix, The Man in a High Castle. You seen that?
bit. Parts of the first series, and I kind of lost interest.
I can't remember whether it's either Netflix or on Prime.
That's Prime. That's Prime. Yeah, that's an Amazon show.
Right. So, what I love about that show is that
I do know Amazon.
Yeah, it's most of it is short lighting, which is really interesting because it evokes a certain amount of mystery and foreboding and all that kind of stuff. When so short lighting is basically when you light somebody effectively on the short side of the face. So it's basically the side of the face that's away from the camera for the most part. So the side of the face that's
which is unusual, right?
Yeah. I mean, so usually, when you're facing a camera, the side of the face that would be facing a camera would naturally be the side of the face that you would light. So that's the long side, if you want. And the other side of the face is called the short side. So depending on how you're tilting your head and how you're moving towards the camera, that's usually, unless you're looking straight on at the camera like I'm doing right now. So as soon as I tilt my head, that would be my short side, now the long side. So short lighting, especially when you're lighting the short side.
So for example, with us looking at each other right now, long side.
Yeah, so that would be the long side, right?
But if the light was directly opposite, for argument's sake,
exactly,
that would be short side.
Yeah. So, so what that means is if you're using short lighting or you're lighting the short side of your face, then the main part of your face actually remains in shadow. And what that means is you just you're disguising the biggest part of your face in darkness, really. And so what that does to the character is it basically means that character isn't as open as it would have otherwise been.
Right.
So that when you have a character that maybe holds something back, hides something, there's a mystery about that, or some kind of secret, or you don't know where that character fits in. You don't know is it is it a good guy, is it a bad guy? What's the relationship? Then you would very often, ideally, light that character in a way that actually portrays these kind of attributes. And so that's what I mean. Like, good lighting is clever lighting, and it says a lot about another dimension of that character.
And these are all the things that go into people want, well, how can it take a day to do that scene, that 2-minute scene? That's why. That's part of the reason why. It's because these are the considerations that go into it. These are the important factors. If you just lit it all exactly the same way, it's just going to be so generic. It's not like a generic. It's not Neighbours. It's not a generic TV. But even something like Neighbours has considerations with that, but done in a TV manner.
Okay, so that's a really good comparison, actually, because if you look at a sitcom type of scenario like Friends, for example, so with a sitcom like that, typically, they're really lit with what you could kind of describe as beauty lighting. So basically, you have flat lighting. If you were on the stage,
it's very flat. It's from
above at an angle, and you'd light the characters that way. And so everything's even. It's very even lighting, and that works in that sitcom scenario because when you have multiple lights, you have multiple characters in the same space. You end up with cross lighting issues and cross shadows and all that kind of stuff, and so you want to avoid that.
Because exactly, they're also not trying to evoke an emotion that isn't related to comedy.
No, that's
right. You don't want to be you don't want to be, just for argument's sake, Rembrandt lighting someone that is trying to do some kind of Ross from Friends. It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. And so in scenes where that is sort of applied, when you have slightly more involved lighting, let's say, those are usually scenes where you'd have like two characters sitting in a restaurant, for example, maybe or something like that. Where it's more about an individual character or maybe two characters talking. But the typical Friends style, whether it's Friends or Seinfeld or whatever it is, this the typical kind of scenario where you have.
Notice how we can't mention a sitcom after 1998.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's in the same room, in the same apartment, basically. Everything's going to be lit super flat.
Yeah.
And, there's a look to that. That's also,
And it's a cool look. I like the look. Yeah. I do. I really like the look. I think it's grand. Grand. I think,
that's grand.
It's swell.
Swell, yes.
Grand. Oh, dear. All right.
But yeah. Anyway, different lighting concepts. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this.
We need to get into that a bit more, I think, on this, because it's important. There's very little that's more important than lighting, right?
Yeah, maybe we should do a little lighting module as part of the podcast.
And you can overcomplicate it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But yes, some of it is very damn complicated, but all the basics is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody, don't overthink it.
Exactly. Don't overthink it. Very important part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. So, I've come across a super funny story. It's another Nikon story. Another Nikon Z9.
Everything to do with them is funny.
Yeah, well, this one is really funny. So Nikon have announced new custom shutter sounds for the Z9. Because remember, the Z9 doesn't have any mechanical shutter. So
I'm going to disappear for a few minutes because this is just going to upset me.
Well, it's not, because you love this one. I know you will. So the Z9 has no mechanical shutter. Oh. The mindfulness app on my watch just told me to be mindful.
Have you moved too much today?
No, not enough.
Mindful, that thing got anyway. Carry on.
Anyway, so the Z9 doesn't have a mechanical shutter anymore, and so therefore it doesn't make a sound when you press the shutter button. Mm-hmm. And so, like many mirrorless cameras, you have to basically have some kind of artificial sound, right? Now, Nikon have just introduced custom shutter sounds, and the most popular one. It's a cat's meow. Meow. Can you imagine? Hey, wait a minute. Hang on a second. Meow. Turn your head a little bit to the left. Yeah. Meow. Oh. I need to get a Z9 just for that. Love it.
It's rare that I'm speechless.
I know, but
I normally have some shit to say.
I know, but you got to give it to Nikon.
Do you?
Yeah, because
do you not think that they've just pushed themselves into the world of
cats?
No, into they're that wanky brands that
imagine you're doing a shoot like in some alleyway or something. You take a shot, it goes meow, and all of a sudden you're being chased down the alley by a whole bunch of dogs.
I can't get on. I just can't get on board with this.
Anyway,
this is up there with putting speakers in electric cars to make them sound like a proper engine.
Yeah,
Put
exactly.
a fucking engine in. Excuse my language. Put a engine in it.
Yeah, but isn't it? No, but that actually has a different purpose. That has a purpose.
I'm not talking about the safety.
Yeah, the
aspect.
safety issue.
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about those that put proper systems in that make it sound exactly.
Yeah, but if you could have
like a full-on engine.
I don't know if you can. If you're a Tesla driver, let me know if it's any different. But if you could have custom sounds on your Tesla, wouldn't you have like an ice cream van bell kind of a thing?
Oh.
Or the sound of the Millennium Falcon. Oh, God, that would be weird. That would be awesome.
All right, that would be cool.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh my
love it.
God.
Oh, so many things can be done with custom
Nikon.
sounds. Now, here's the thing, though. I mean,
you're just diluting your. Oh.
So, funny Nikon story, but of course, we have to counterbalance that with a really quite a tragic Canon story.
Okay.
Yeah. So this actually.
I don't know.
So
the Nikon one was pretty tragic.
So Canon set up some years ago the Canon's Institute for Global Studies. What that is basically it's a think tank. It's a private think tank that was set up in I think 2007 or something, and it was set up to commemorate Canon's 70th anniversary.
Okay,
right, and so the idea was the corporate philosophy for Canon is called and I'm totally pronouncing this wrong because it's Japanese. It's like kyosei or something, right? Which basically is the idea of living and working together for the common good. Okay,
it said all of that in kyosei.
Yeah, and it's basically for the common good, with the aim to contributing to global prosperity. That's all just encompassed in one word. Gosei.
Why do we not all speak Japanese then if they can say all of that in one word?
Well, but isn't that how that language works anyway? Hi! And that basically means like a million things. Anyway. So
Daniel-san.
Exactly. Anyway, so now tragic story though, because the Canon are under pressure to remove multiple articles by a Dr. Taishi Suryana.
What?
Or something like that, because he's been calling the climate crisis fake news, and he's called Greta Thunberg a communist. That's not good for the brand.
Not the best for the brand, is it? No. Not the best.
No. So
okay.
So these articles.
But has he said this stuff when he's been doing it for Canon?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So on the
okay,
on the Canon Institute for Global Studies website, apparently, he's written some articles to that effect. And
how did that get through?
So total, so basically articles that promote, dangerous climate denial.
How did that get in?
Stuff. I mean,
Canon.
It's just a, not a good idea, really. So anyway, so that was some negative news on Canon's behalf there.
It's not really their fault, so to speak. And I'm not suggesting either that denying climate change is wrong. I don't agree, because it is real.
Hey, how many storms have we had?
But
recently,
there's a lack of process there for Canon that's allowed that to get through. And okay, fine. It's not them specifically. It's one of their ambassadors, if you like.
Yeah, it just looks bad. Looks bad.
It does.
But
it does. But I'm sure most people can see past that. That was an individual and not.
Yeah, it's multiple articles, though. It's not just one. I think it's been going on.
Okay, so Canon, very specifically Canon Japan.
Yeah.
Oh well. Okay. I hadn't heard about that.
But calling Greta Thunberg or Tom, I can never pronounce her name correctly. Greta, is it Thunberg or Thunberg?
I'm English. I can't pronounce foreign names.
Or Thunberg. I just don't know. Anyway,
her,
that girl.
Yeah, that one.
But yeah, calling her communist that's far out.
From a pure comedy perspective, it is amusing.
Well,
it's inaccurate, obviously, but it's amusing.
She was a character on Splitting Image. I mean, so
there you go. There you go. If she's on the same show as Boris Johnson, then and Putin, isn't Putin a Spitting Image?
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
Oh, let's not get there.
No. Well, this is episode 96. Again, if you are watching this on Thursday, then
I'd like to think it's all over, but
then you're lucky because World War III hasn't started yet. Yeah, that's what I can say to that.
And I'll bleep this out in post, but what a fucking cock monkey that man is. You can work out what I said.
No. Yeah. Shocking. I don't know if we have any listeners in Ukraine or in Russia, actually.
Okay. Well, you can be pretty sure that all of them are against what's going on.
Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. We're like super not political on this show.
No, we're not.
Ever.
But this is very, very current and obviously
but sometimes
insanely wrong.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to pick a side. And, in this particular side, we're 100% behind, the people of Ukraine, I would say, because, we've obviously we had no choice but to follow this for the last 6 days or something. And it's absolutely horrendous, and I have to say, I mean, coming from a country that has, invaded other countries.
Spotty past.
It's very spotty past, yeah. I really,
Canada?
Yeah, terrible. These invaders, these Canadian invaders. Jesus Christ.
Sorry, I'm making light of it. just
no,
yeah,
but
anyway,
but it's one of these things that it just makes you realize that we've had ample opportunities to learn from history, and if there seem to be some people on this planet who haven't read the history books.
Frankly, there are just a handful of people who are still so close to that past that they have no ability to let it go for whatever reason. And before long, it'll all be gone. Those people will be gone. And I hope that we can all just move on.
Yeah. Same. Anyway, so if you are...
Get to that idealistic Star Trek world, right?
Exactly. If you are listening, if you are in Ukraine and you're, I'm pretty sure you've got other problems at the moment rather than listening to a photography podcast.
Well,
but,
quite.
If you are, then, our hearts go out to you, obviously. We hope you get through this, the best, with the best outcome possible. Yeah, tragic times, really. Tragic times. And it affects us all, really. It affects us all to an extent. I think the world's a different place.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And it's going to get more and more different over the next few days, weeks, months. There's going to be all sorts of repercussions of what's going on.
I was actually looking at a photography website today, earlier today, and there was an article featuring photographs from Ukraine, like sort of almost, if you want to call it behind the scenes photographs, but just simply photographs of what's going on. And it was really harrowing. I mean, really terrible.
Yeah, I've seen some.
It's really really hard to watch it. Just like any war zone, really. It's just, but to think that, and it's a weird thing. I've thought about this quite a lot. I mean, it's a weird thing. This is obviously happening on our doorstep. Give or take. It's a European country. This is like all out war. That's really not that far away, and it's just I don't know. It's a weird thing to say, but it has a different impact compared to looking at news from the Middle East, let's say, or something like that. It just seems so much further away. I don't know what it is, and it just doesn't make any sense necessarily, or maybe it does. I don't know. But yeah, pretty terrible thing. Anyway,
yeah.
Enough about that for now. There are other news that seem completely irrelevant at this point, actually, like the fact that Lego are making a near-to-scale Polaroid one-step SX70 camera.
Wait, what? Say it again.
So Lego make a near-to-scale Polaroid one-step SX70 camera as a Lego thing with a moving film tray.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be in any way functional?
No, it's basically... What
a shame.
So the film tray comes out, basically it's got like a little dial on the side, and you can basically turn it, and the film tray comes out as if it was a photograph coming out of a Polaroid.
That's cool. Right? It's really cool.
It is cool. It looks really good. It actually looks really good. It really looks really good. It's near to scale. It's 538 pieces. So Lego do a thing where they have... they run what's called the Lego Ideas page, where basically people can come up with things that they build, and then they can enter it to the Lego Ideas page.
Oh, I like that.
And Lego basically look at it,
cracking.
And then they have like a staff vote or something like that, and they'll basically decide what they like, and then potentially that will then turn into a product further down the road.
What a cracking idea!
Yeah,
everyone should do that. Do you know they built there's a shop under the
Legoland
railway bridge in Windsor.
Right. Okay.
There's a Lego shop there. Yeah, I don't know if it's still there. But...
Lego have come up with a whole bunch of really cool things, like the fire station from Ghostbusters and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's very cool.
And the only really cool thing I've seen Playmobil come out with recently is actually the
Playmobil.
Yeah, the original USS Enterprise with all the characters and a fully functional bridge and stuff. That's wicked. It looks great. It's huge.
You're so getting that for your wife for Christmas.
Well, the idea had crossed my mind. But no, so
it's funny. I was talking to Paula the other day, and she was saying, "Oh, yeah, actually, I used to really like Star Trek." I was like,
"What?
What?
Yeah, whose
really?
wife are you?" Yeah,
yeah. I used to watch Voyager.
Oh yeah,
a lot. So all right,
no.
we'll get into that. And she said, Tom Paris. All right. There you go. That's why you watched it.
Yeah. So, yeah, my wife's actually, she's rewatched all the different Star Trek series, all of them, whilst cooking. So she has an iPad on while she's cooking. So she watches like her TV shows.
She's
and whatnot.
Clearly cooking too much then.
She likes cooking, but yeah, I mean,
this reflects on you, by the way.
She basically went through. She watched the entire, like all the seasons of ER, like which there are many, and all that kind of stuff. So it's it's always on when she's in the kitchen cooking, So yeah, and it takes months or years sometimes.
You cook too much. That's it. I know you're not watching, but I'm telling you right now, you cook too much.
Can never be a bad thing.
You need to kick him into touch. He needs to be doing a lot more cooking than he is.
I order. That's right.
I'm a professional at ordering.
Exactly. And eating.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so coming back to this Lego Polaroid, so that's been entered to the Lego Ideas page, and it now has received over 10,000 backers. So there's a really good chance that we might see that in the shops.
It's really cool. It's a really, really good idea.
So yeah,
I like the idea of that, submissions and voting and all that. It's really cool.
It looks actually, it's phenomenally lifelike. So yeah,
okay.
Great job,
wicked.
Now there's a one big piece of news. This week, and that is, and we sort of alluded to that a few weeks ago, when we were talking about Olympus bringing out a new camera, but we didn't really have any details. Nothing really was known, and they have.
Are they out?
Yes, so they've now announced the thing. It's basically their new flagship, the OM-1, and it has some really tasty. Yeah, it's some really tasty features actually. So.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. It really does actually. It's also, it will be the last flagship camera under the Olympus brand name, because it'll be henceforth be known as OM Digital.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Olympus.
But... Yeah, that's shocking. Anyway, but the OM-1, first of all, it looks really quite cool. It's still Micro Four Third, but Olympus they are committed to that format.
Yeah,
Just as Panasonic, and
I respect that.
I've actually just heard, just in brackets, I've just heard that Panasonic are really invested in the Micro Four Third format. They are they're going to be bringing out a number of other cameras over the next year or so, all using Micro Four Third sensors, so they're fully invested in that. But coming back to the OM-1, now get this right, it's a 20 megapixel stacked BSI live MOS sensor with what's called a TruePic-X image.
It sounds like the GH5. Yeah.
So it's 3 times faster than any other Olympus ever made. So that's one thing.
Faster in what respect? Sorry.
In like processing, though.
Oh, just general.
Image processing.
Okay.
The dynamic range is better by like a whole stop. I think it's maximum ISO is something like 25,600. Now, that can be expanded to like 100 and something, 102. Was it 102,400 or something? It includes 5-axis in-body stabilization.
Yeah,
so it's very cool. But what the thing I like is that it includes some computational photography in it.
Okay.
Because basically, what it allows you to do is there's a high resolution shot mode, and there's 2 high resolution shot modes. They allow you to create images between 50 and 80 megapixels. So remember, this is a 20 megapixel sensor. So what it does is basically, in the high-res shot mode, it basically takes, I'm guessing, up to 4 separate images, and it combines them together into one huge high-resolution file. And that's that's pretty cool, you know. But it's also, and this is the other thing, it's also pretty fast. So, so even if you're shooting wildlife, for example,
do you know how that's? Sorry, Kate, but how does that work? And what I mean by that is,
how does it technically work?
Yeah, and yes and no, but is that working that I am taking? Let's just say I'm on a tripod, and I'm taking a shot of the camera that's at us right now, and I'm not moving the camera, and I hit go.
Mm-hmm.
Will I end up with it taking 4 shots and end up with my 80 megapixel photo of that one shot, or am I required to do like you would do, take multiple shots and stitch them together afterwards?
No. I think
what does it mean in that respect?
I think it's my bedtime reminder.
Well, nice. It's late.
Anyway, so no, I
it's
think
not late.
I didn't actually. It didn't really allude to the details, but I think it's more of a pixel shift type of a thing.
It is pixel shift. Okay,
I think that's what it is.
So static cam, so to speak, and eventually making that.
That's what it sounded like. There wasn't any.
So if you got no motion, I'm guessing it will work brilliantly.
So from the information I had, it wasn't really clear, but that's what it's going to sound like. Anyway,
okay,
but, we'll hear more about this in the near future. Anyway,
I'm pretty sure Panasonic have had that for a while, or something like that. But they did a lower. I don't know. I don't remember what it was now, if I'm honest, but a lower quality version of that. I think they called it a 4K picture or something. I don't know. Anyway, their images on the GH5 were just shocking anyway, but that's what they could do on it. Something like that. I guess it was the same kind of technology, and this has just brought it on a huge leap.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's nothing new, really. I mean, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Different manufacturers allow you to do that. But, anyway, it's all in this one package. The other thing is that it's a fast shooter as well. 50 frames per second at full res with no blackout in EVF, by the way. So if you're shooting sports or wildlife or anything like that, this could be a really attractive package. And I know from the sort of camera club world, where, of course, shooting wildlife in particular is very, very popular, and sports actually to an extent. There could potentially be a huge market for that. I mean, I know that in that, in that environment, a lot of people shoot Olympus, and therefore have the glass and all the rest of it. So this could be, really an interesting, thing for that kind of shooter, which isn't a professional market at all. But I think, to be honest, I think Micro Four Thoughts is, with the exception of the GH5/GH6 and video applications,
and I think it only really applies to video application.
Yeah, exactly. Micro Four Thoughts is probably not a kind of format that's used a lot in the professional world generally, but in the enthusiast world, that's really very popular.
Yeah. And rightly so, actually.
Sure.
The lenses, the size, the weight, all of that,
the price.
It does make a difference.
Because I tell you what, we'll come to the price in a minute, and actually that'll actually surprise you, given what's in the package, basically. So remember, we've got 50 frames full res. 50 frames per second at full resolution. The EVF seems pretty cool. 5.76 million pixels.
Okay,
sounds awesome. And even on the video front, not too bad. 4K at 60p and 100, like full HD or 1080p at 240 frames per second.
Yeah,
you can do a little bit of damage with that. 12-bit 444. I have no idea what that means. On an external recorder, sounds pretty good. I mean, video wise, it's decent.
What's that's external recorder? Do you know what it's like on SD?
Didn't say.
Okay. Of course not.
So remember this, right? So you get 20 megapixels. You get the stacked BSI,
which I think is
sensor.
That's pretty much standard, I think, for feds.
So and improved dynamic range, in-body 5-axis stabilization, all that kind of stuff.
So stack should mean it's got dual ISO, I believe. Yeah.
Possible.
So it'll have 2 base ISOs.
Right.
like just for argument's sake, I think if I remember right, the GH5S had like 400 and 800 and 1,000 or something like that. So you got the lowest noise possible.
Okay.
At once you got to those, it would switch sensors basically.
Okay, but that's predominantly for video applications.
Yeah, I guess so. I never really used it for stills at all. Okay. But yeah.
Cool.
No, I think it still applies to stills, but the ISOs were different.
Oh, interesting.
No. I take that totally back. The ISOs was different when you were using log versus Rec 709 in video.
Okay. Right.
That's what it was. Sorry.
Cool.
My mistake.
But the whole thing sets you back a cool £1,999 for the body. So that's really not bad.
That's quite expensive for a Micro Four Thirds body, though.
But it's a flagship. It's not expensive for a flagship. If we're comparing that to all the other flagships.
Flagship, full stop. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
How does that? I mean, frankly, Panasonic are their competition with this. How does that compare to their current flagship?
Okay, so let's have a look at, because I don't know from the top of my head how much the Panasonic GH6 would be, but let's have a look.
Depending on how many words you can say while you're searching, it will depend on whether I cut this on.
Interesting enough, the GH6, £1,999. It's exactly the same.
It's interesting.
That's very interesting. There you go. Body only, yeah, exactly the same price point. Shebang.
I'll tell you what, the GH5S didn't cost that. That's gone up a lot.
So if we look at, if we compare the specs, okay, so the ISO is the same. Screen resolution.
I doubt there's a lot between them, if I'm honest.
No, I think they'll be very...
There or thereabouts.
They're probably... Okay, this doesn't give me all the specs, but I think from the sound of it, they'll be very...
Yeah.
Very similar. You think the overview?
No. But we'll check for sure.
So... Okay, so the GH6 has a 25.2 megapixel
versus what?
Versus 20. So slightly higher resolution, but it has a considerably smaller EVF. So maybe we should do a side-by-side comparison.
I think we need to.
Yeah. That sounds
I think these are a couple of important cameras that are coming out, actually. There's a huge market for full thirds.
Yeah, this is an interesting point because, that format is really, like we said earlier, is really geared at the sort of enthusiast kind of market. And that's,
it's most of the market.
Yeah, the pro market for these sort of cameras is a considerably smaller market. It's obvious.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting thing. Anyway, so sounds good. Good news for all of our friends, friendly Olympus shooters.
Yeah.
This sounds pretty awesome. It'd be interesting. Actually, I'd be interested to know how many of the people that I know that shoot Olympus will be switching to that. It's always a little bit sad when sort of an old brand, is disappearing. To think that that's the last Olympus branded camera.
Yeah.
And I don't think OM Digital is necessarily an improvement.
Of course it's not.
If it was called something like Zorg, that'd be awesome.
Oh, we're in one of the bad Superman films, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Zorg the Destroyer. But yeah, anyway, so happy days. Good news for Olympus.
100%.
Super awesome. Now, that is what we've got for today. again, if you are listening to this on Thursday, the 3rd of March, and you are in the sort of northwest London, Watford, Hertfordshire type area, and you want to learn how I shoot.
Just described the most vast area.
Well, I mean, but yeah, if you're interested in how I shoot the 3 heads in a row images, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Instagram. Go to @3headsinarrow. That's literally 3 spelled THREE heads in a row. Have a look at that if you like it and you want to learn more about it and how I shoot those. Then you can either come along if you're in the area, or send us a message and we can maybe turn this into more of a tutorial. But there'll be more behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
So stuff coming out about this anyway. Anyhow, now that being said, we have come to the end of this week's episode. That was episode 96 of the Camera Shake podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, then be reminded that you can see our lovely faces in full Technicolor over on YouTube. And if you feel so inclined, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so that you're notified every time we bring out a new video. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, then be so kind as to leave us a review, because that really helps us. That being said, that is it. We shall see you again next Thursday.